What's up, people? How you doing? It's Brandon Johnson with the Digital Liberation Front. Happy New Year. Tonight, we are going to be talking about we're going to be having an ongoing conversation. I consider it a rolling conversation about the concept of reparations. I put together a very, very amazing panel of individuals here, and we're going to be focusing on what is reparations. You know, what does it mean to different individuals? Is it even feasible? Is it even possible? So I'm going to go ahead and bring my panelists on right now so we can start this dialogue. What's up, people? How you doing? It's Brandon Johnson with the... And I'm hearing my thoughts. Happy New Year. Tonight, we are... Which one of y'all has me on here?
First thing first, everyone turn
right back.
What are you listening to down?
Yes, if you...
Yeah, that was me. I was setting it up. I'm sorry.
Okay. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So, first of all, I want to introduce Kwame Shakur. Kwame, talk to us a little bit about your organization and what it is that you do.
All right. I'm the founder and chairman of the Black Liberation Circle. Was a former minister of culture for the new African Black Panther Party. We basically have the same ideology as the original Black Panther Party. We see that the legacy that the original Black Panther Party handed out to our generation today is the legacy that we should uphold today, because it was the first one of its kind to teach us what Black liberation is about and how to really free ourselves. And look at how this capitalist imperialist system is set up. It uses class oppression to oppress us fundamentally. But there's particular ways that this system oppresses us in the ethnic sense. You dig what I'm saying? And Fred Hampton was the best example of it up in Chicago. He was the deputy chairman of the Black Panther Party of that chapter up there. And he built a rainbow coalition just on Black organizing within their communities, Latinos organizing in their communities, whites organizing their communities, Native Americans organizing in their communities. Because at the end of the day, even though we have our particular contradictions that affect us ethnic-wise in our own neighborhoods and our own communities, at the end of the day, it was a class struggle, he said, that we have to wage against this capitalist imperialist system. So for us, we come at everything from a revolutionary standpoint.
Okay. I'm going to follow up on that introduction in a second, but I want to get everybody else on the air and introduce Darren. How you doing today?
I'm well, sir. Appreciate your invite and looking forward to some fruitful conversation.
Excellent. Darnell, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Here to make everybody smile at life and embrace the beautiful things that even when it's wrong, it could be right.
Gotcha. 7 of the rail. Talk to me.
What's good? What's good, people? Man, I can't wait to get the conversation in. Got some good information. I had a gentleman who was supposed to join us, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to tonight. But since this is an ongoing conversation, I'm sure he'll be, he as well as some others that I'm in contact with, would be more than willing to join in on the next one.
Dialogue. And Chandelier, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine. All right. So that being said, Kwame, what is the nature of, and what does your organization do?
So one of the things that that we do is we see that we have to organize the institution. We say it like this: we educate, mobilize, organize. If you want to break it down in summation, but what does that mean? We mean that in order for us, like UP News said, revolution is a process. It's not an event. So this is something that you have to develop and cultivate within our own communities from the grassroots up. And one ways we have to do that is we have to institutional build within our community, build programs that teach the people how to be self-sufficient so they don't have to be relying on the government. You know, because at the end of the day, this for 400 years, they have shown us that they will never accept us as black people. They're still gunning us down in the streets. Many of us is victims of mass incarceration right now. A lot of us is sitting on federal death row being executed as we speak. So for us, we have to empower the people in order for the people to understand that we are our own solutions. You know what I'm saying? And anything that we do get from them is only can be contributed to Black liberation to free us from this system at the end of the day. So that's one of our goals. We also be out here, like I said, I'll be going up to down to Valdosta, Georgia, standing with the family of Jackie Johnson. Her son was, as a lot of people know, wrapped up in a mat, found in a high school gym area, missing organs. We'll be going down there supporting her this weekend, and then on the 15th, going up here to Cleveland, Ohio, boots on the ground, shutting down the streets with Tamir Rice's mother. Tamir Rice recently, the police, they killed him. Ain't being charged from the federal government, so they haven't got no justice. So we do this in many different ways, but all these issues tied to one system, one class oppression against all of us, the people, and particularly how it affects our Black community. So we organize within the Black community and join with other revolutionaries that's doing the same thing, which we call the Rainbow Coalition.
Facts. And I'm pretty sure because of the Jacob Blake shooting, you'll probably be going to, well, what we saw today in regard to Jacob Blake not receiving justice for being shot in the back multiple times. You know, your organization probably had some protests for that pretty soon as well, I anticipate. But that being said, where are we now? What does reparations mean? You talked about a lot of systemic injustice that your organization addresses, but what does it mean to you to panelists here? Let's start with Seven. What does reparations mean?
Reparations is an actual repairing of a people. When put into effect initially for the Japanese Americans, it was because they were put into internment camps here in the United States, and that was part of the United States way of saying, hey, we made a mistake, and this is our method of preparing you and providing for you in that time during that time during which you could have been gainfully employed doing whatever. That same sort of mindset, in my opinion, should be what is applied to reparations for ADOS, which is American Descendants of Slaves. I mean, we're talking about an entire group of people who were subjugated and in all cases, in all aspects, relegated to be and or the foot of any given white person around. I mean, and it's not just about, oh, well, you were slaves. It's not about that. It's also including Negro. It's also including the vagrancy law, the Negro vagrancy law. It's also including the Casual Killing Act. This also includes redlining. I mean, it's like there were tons of different ways that the government in itself was complicit in our maintained subjugation after slavery. So that's not to take away from immigrants who have come to the United States since then, or since the Civil Rights Movement, or even before, who may have encountered some level of discrimination, racism, even. That's not to take away from them at all. That those situations are definitely genuine. But the point of reparations is to repair, at least in my understanding, to repair the wrongs that have been placed upon or heaped upon a people, and in this case, it's upon ADOS. It's for Black folks. I mean, I don't get why. Anyway, let me not get into it. But yeah, so that's what reparations is, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, Chandelier, wait, I see you smiling. What are your thoughts on what reparations is?
I definitely agree with Seven. I definitely agree with it in that aspect. My thoughts on it is pretty much for me, it's just about trying to narrow down who actually gets it and who doesn't. We all know what reparations are actually for and why it needs to be done. But I think it all boils down to what we will discuss today is who gets it and who doesn't get it. And I think that's going to be the main issue amongst people in our community as it already is.
Darnell.
Well, me personally, my opinion. When we say reparations, I just want to say in studying, picking a side or none of that. I just want to say descendants of slaves. I think we should say that more often. So, saying who it's going to and why it's going to and all of that. I want you to say descendants of slaves, people that been wrong here first, and then everybody else. My opinion.
Darren, I know you got.
Well, I mean, there's been at least 5, maybe 6 or 7 instances where specific ethnicities have received reparations, particularly the Japanese, the internment camps in World War II. Several Indian groups have received reparations. Alaskan natives have received over $1 billion. Japanese have received over $1 billion. There's no question, but I think the 2 most difficult things is we really don't have a database of African Americans, if you will, for lack of a better term. Nor do we have records that go beyond 1870. If I'm not mistaken, the U.S. Census didn't include African Americans until 1870. So we need a starting point in order to come up with, as Chandelier stated, who is entitled, who will receive, and there's no question that we are entitled to receive, as have other ethnic groups. I mean, there's no question. But where do we start? How do we enumerate that? And how do we determine eligibility?
7, you got a point to make?
I just want to add a thing I wanted to add on to it. It's just that before we can even get to that point, so basically what took place with the Japanese and then all those other situations that's not taking place now is there was an actual admission of fault. So while the United States did finally, in 2009, apologize for slavery, like that's not really getting into everything that they've done in their complicity after that. So if we're going to start talking about reparations, or if the U.S. is at some point going to embrace or take on the actual mantle of doling out reparations or something like that, first thing they have to do is say, yeah, we did this. We were complicit in all of these different things that I enumerated. We were complicit. We did that. Like that needs to happen first, in my opinion.
Yes.
So based off of what you've experienced, Kwame, how realistic is that ownership of, the culpability when it comes to, or the responsibility when it comes to slavery? Like, I mean, if you have who won't even own the fact that, they're straight up shooting people in the back, like we saw you, it's all
right. Yeah, I mean, when we put it in perspective, over 1,000 of us is killed by the police every year. You know what I mean? Less than 1% is ever held accountable, and that's just the constant, the current form of this genocide that they've been carrying out against our community for 400 years, and they don't take responsibility. I support reparations. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those individuals that sees everything black and white. My thing is this: I have 2 issues with this issue right here. One, when if we get reparations, how is it going to be allocated for black liberation? Because at the end of the day, if we just trying to get money to be in a rat race with white supremacists and these capitalists and these corporations and these financial institutions, it doesn't put in perspective that we will become the new oppressors of our people around the world as well, because of some of the people that, like for instance, you see some of the ones that sets up shop over in Africa and Bangladesh, some of these ones that's made a lot of millions, and now they got shops over there and oppressing other black people, other people of color. That's not no solution. You dig what I'm saying? I don't want to be with the capitalist imperialists that oppress our people. You dig what I'm saying? And trying to be in a rat race to side with their oppression. All the money that we get should go to building institutions where we have our own schools, our own healthcare,
Yes.
our own institutions to be self-sufficient, so we no longer have to depend on the government if we get reparations. That right there starts to build Black liberation, where we become self-sufficient and understand that we have to govern ourselves. You can have our own community patrols like the original Black Panther did. So when the pigs come in our neighborhood, we right there holding everybody accountable. You dig what I'm saying? We're not going to allow no more Trayvon Martins. We're not going to allow no more Mike Browns, Tamir Rices in our neighborhoods. You know what I mean? So for me, that's one issue. The second issue is only the reason I have a problem with ADOS is that I'm not a big fan of identity politics. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like Malcolm said, what they're doing over there in Congo, they doing right over there in Georgia. What they doing down in Mozambique, they doing right over there in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You know what I mean? What they're doing over there in Nigeria right now, they're fighting against ending SARS with the police on against people over there. We're doing over here too. So I tie everything into freeing us from this system. Anything short of that, to me, is betraying our people, and all we're gonna do is assimilate more into this culture and feel like we're more privileged and get comfortable with our new predicament in this country and stop fighting for Black liberation and revolution. You know what I mean?
Okay. So I'm gonna try to compress that or basically summarize what you're saying. So what you're saying is any kind of reparations that feeds into this current existing capitalist system is going to inevitably result in the continued oppression of the people. It needs to be more about creating institutions that benefit Black people or ADOS over.
Well, I say Black people. I don't say ADOS, because when I say the Black community, we got Nigerians in our neighborhoods and stuff. You dig what I'm saying? So for me, when I say Black institutional building, I'm talking about having our own schools, education, healthcare, all these different things that's going to support the Black community, no matter where you come from. You dig what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we all being oppressed by the same system. No matter if it's over here or over in the islands over here, it's the same global system that is oppressing all of us. You dig what I'm saying? And until we end this system that's oppressing all of us from a class standpoint, we're never going to get free. So any type of reparations we get, to me, has to feed into institutional building of the whole Black community, and that institutional building has to be geared around liberating ourselves from this white supremacist capitalist imperialist system, period. All right, you know what I mean? Anything short of that is betraying our people, I feel.
7. So I'm reading your face, and it is giving me so much right now. It's so expressive. Share with me, how you feel about that. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just think that's kind of a disingenuous, in my opinion. So let's start here. In my opinion, I feel like it's disingenuous to say that you're not doing something that you don't want to associate with identity politics, but you're doing stuff for Black folks. That's identity politics. that in itself is that right there. But to go even further, I feel like there is, just kind of going to what I was saying before. I mean, there is an actual. I mean, there have been tons of acts that have affected us. ADOS that affected America's descendants of slaves. That necessarily may have, it may have hit some of our Nigerian brothers and sisters and some of our other African brothers as by virtue of just being here. But please understand that this is our land. This, and we don't know about any other lands. I hate to be like that, but we built this land, and this is the land that we created. So why shouldn't we benefit from our creation? And then to take it even further, I'll say that if we're speaking about doing this for just if we're talking about doing this for Black folks, we're talking about doing this for America's slavery descendants, then again we have to be honest about who is and who isn't. Like, yeah, there are things that probably Nigerians and Brazilians and Dominicans experience as a result of being here, as a virtue of being here. However, space, I don't think that anything that dealt with redlining affected them directly. I don't think anything that dealt with some of the the convict leasing, that didn't affect them. Vagrancy laws, that didn't affect them. Like, so we have to go into, in my opinion, again, we have to go into this and actually, and it kind of goes to what Darren was saying earlier. Like, we have to break this down in terms of who gets what and how, and set up an actual database or something, or ground zero, so to speak, point, so that way we can say this is where we're starting from, and from here, this is where we need to go.
Yes. Say that again. So
the first thing is we have to establish a ground zero. That has to happen. But then when it comes to, I'm still not understanding where we talked earlier. Let me digress. We talked earlier about police brutality. Is that tied into reparations, at all? Like, you're talking about being compensated for the damage and the suffering that has occurred since slavery? No,
it's not just that. It's not just that. It's for slavery itself, and the addition of all the laws and all the acts that the government has put in place, complicitly saying, no, y'all stay over there. Okay. All the N-words, stay over there. You can't get no houses. You can't get no jobs. You can't move. Stay in that area. Have you heard of the Mississippi Punch Bowl? Like, things like that actually happen. Like, these things actually happen. This is what it's for. It's not for, that Nigerian over there couldn't get a loan. It's not about that. Right. And we're going forward and talking about, we're going to create a high class of Black people who are going to look down on. So what? We got to keep all the Black people down unless we can all rise up. To me, that doesn't make sense. To me, that doesn't. Because I feel like I don't believe in that. I feel like if we here are the ones who's rising up, if we rise up here, then that will help to get everybody else to rise up as well. But if we sitting here talking about, we can't do nothing since them over there ain't getting nothing, to me, that's kind of a real slow way to say we ain't gonna do nothing.
Take care home first. Take care home first.
I just say
take care home first.
We already doing that here anyway, so we don't like theorize and just have intellectual debates. We actually do stuff in our community now. You dig what I'm saying? Right. So when I talk about what I'm talking about, for one, I'm not talking about identity politics in a narrow sense. When I'm talking about identity politics, I'm talking about when these come the issues in and of themselves, and they are not tied to a analysis of oppression that will keep on going on no matter if we get reparations or not. Because to me, reparations can be used in different type of ways. You know what I'm saying? We can correct, I'm saying this. Hear what I'm saying. We can use reparations to create a Black bourgeoisie class. You know what I'm saying? That helps them to better be able to survive in this country and build businesses and stuff like that. Or we can put those reparations towards Black liberation that's going to lead to human liberation. Like, for instance, what Fred Hampton with the original Black Panther Party was doing up in Chicago. That's why they killed that brother 50 years ago, because he had the answer. He understood at the end of the day was oppressing us in the Black community. It's also oppressing our brothers over in the Latino community. It's oppressing our brothers in the Native American community. And because we've been so slave-minded, where we've always only focused on our particular struggles without seeing that our struggles is linked with the other oppressed slaves on the same plantation, because we on the same plantation. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only way where all of us can come together and struggle against this same common oppression that's oppressing us all. So it goes beyond identity politics once you come to a class consciousness. You know what?
Can I say something, man? Can I?
Yeah.
Listen,
let's go and then Chandelier, so I can see her face too.
All right, listen. First of all, I'm gonna say, I understand you, my brother, and this is what I'm about to tell you, man. First of all, I'm getting tired of people always saying my Indian brother, my Puerto Rican brother, my everybody else, my Haitian brother. Let me explain something to you. Nowhere in the world that nobody stands up for us. Now I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna start. What you do is you got to take care of home first. I'm gonna tell you something. You go to work every day, right? When you get paid on Friday, what you got to take care of? Home first, right? Home first. Your money come out your check. You say I got to pay my home first because I got to have somewhere to stay. So let's take care of home first, and everything starts from there. You know, when you start building the train, start building the train tracks, right? You got to start from a point.
From the community first.
So we got to take care of home first. So you know what home first is? All right, so you know what home first is? Is the descendants.
What we're doing now.
No.
The black community.
I'm gonna stop, y'all. I just want you to say, I'm gonna start from the beginning. We got to start from the point. And our point is starting from taking care of us first. And you know who us is? Is the descendants from slaves. So after we start the build right there, that first track to start off, we got to start from there first. You got to take care of house first, and then you got to pay all your other bills. Okay. And if you can't understand that analogy, that's why we're gonna always fall.
But that's what I'm saying. When you say us first, you say you distinguishing yourself from that black brother that lives across the street.
Listen, man, he do it to me every day.
Huh?
Listen, they do it to us every day. Let me explain.
No, see, that's
I'm gonna tell you something. I just want you to understand something.
All right, hold on. We're gonna let Shane talk. I don't want it to be a bunch of men dominating the conversation.
Yes, young lady, speak on.
Exactly. Go ahead, Shane. Say what you need to say.
I definitely agree with taking care of home first. I think that's a major issue even now, and it was a major issue when the U.S. put its hands on other people's mess anyway. So my personal thoughts is home first is African American descendants of slavery here. Not this. We're not sitting there saying no one else deserves to sit with us, to eat with us, to live with us. But we actually need ours and what was done to our families first. And then we can handle everything else globally. What happened in Haiti? France need to pay them that damn money. Give them that 21 billion back. And then also give them reparations on top of that. I'm not saying that Nigerians or Kenyans or anybody else that comes here from other lands does not suffer racial injustice. That's not what's being said at all. What is actually being discussed is payment for what those that were here went through prior to.
Let me ask you this. Once we, from ADOS position, once we get those monies that come in, what is the game plan that y'all feel is going to aid to our election? That's what I want to hear. Because I don't hear nothing but individuals want to get a paycheck. Now, how are we using this to liberate ourselves? Because we still a part of the same system. That's oppressing us.
Let's feel that question.
Still gonna have Trey Lyons and Mike Browns.
I want to start with Darren with that response. Darren, what is your response to that? Like, how should it be allocated?
How should it be allocated? I think that's the biggest dilemma. We don't know who is who. We don't know where to start. What is the number? Who are we? Who's going to receive? Where do we start from? Until we have that, I don't think we have anything. I think that's the foundation. You need to know and determine who exactly we is. Who's going to receive the check? Who's on the roster? When they're going to start? What is it based on? Where do you come from? What's your bloodline? And we lost all of that. We lost all of that. We lost all of that from 1619 to 1870. I was able to trace my family tree. I was able to go back to a certain point. It got to about 1840. The census in America didn't start until 1870. I mentioned that earlier. What is the starting point? Who's included in that list? Until we get that, we don't know what we're doing. We got 40 million African Americans.
We have a classification.
But we have 40 million African Americans in America. Now, does everybody get a check?
No.
You know, when exactly, you know, so what do we base it on? We're talking about something that we really essentially haven't even started. We don't even have a roster or list of who's going to get a check. And we're arguing about whether or not it's going to help us and what we're going to do with it when we get it.
Okay, let's say we have classification, and let's say that 25 million of them is fits the ADOS classification. Now, tell us that don't understand, like, what is the strategy to help Black people really liberate ourselves? What is the strategy once we get these checks? What we do then?
I get your point, but we don't even know who the checks are going to.
But I'm saying once we figure that part out, let's say we figure this out. What do we do to liberate us from this system? What is y'all strategy?
What is liberation? Do we have to leave this place to be liberated?
No, it's absolutely, we're not leaving. We built this country. So what we feel like the original Black Panther Party, we have to educate, mobilize, and organize for revolution day. And that's a process. That don't happen overnight. That might not happen 5 years or 10 years from now.
Money won't. Oh, somebody just said it. Money won't.
Huh?
Money doesn't make liberations, though. I mean, just because you got money doesn't mean you're liberated.
That's what personally build. When you start to become self-sufficient, when you no longer have to.
I mean, but we've got tons of Black people who have jobs, who are CEOs, who are engineers, doctors, lawyers, and they already got bread and they doing all that. So I mean, where is it?
Look at that class analysis. They identify with the white supremacist system that has given them
That's why we all identify with the system. That's why we're here.
All of us.
We all have to. We all identify with it because we all are participants of the system.
That's
we're here.
That's like saying that the slaves that was on the slave plantation participated in that system because the fact that they was under that condition that they had no choice. But the ones that was resisting that,
do we have a choice now?
Like the Haitians,
where are we going to go?
What choice do we have now? What do we have?
If we're going to liberate ourselves, where are we going?
Use this analogy. The Haitians that we spoke about that liberated themselves and fought off the French, they just didn't stay complacent in those conditions. They said we have to.
Now,
but where are they now?
Back where they started from.
Because they made a mistake on how to reconstitute their civilization, their society, and they started they have a
I don't know enough.
Everybody hold up. First, I want to welcome somebody else to the fold. Hello.
There you go.
Introduce yourself, young man.
Sauce Jones.
I'm originally from Louisiana. I currently reside in Kansas City. I guess you could put me on the ADOS boat. I've been following the movement for a long time. You could probably put me in that hotel boat too.
Okay. All right. So we have an issue in regard to origin. Where do we start when we start?
Starting point. Starting point.
Then we have an issue in regard to who this goes to. So I think I heard 1965. Can anybody fill me in why that date?
I'll go earlier than that. I would go anybody that can, translate lineage down to like 1901 or 18, and then we can. I wish y'all stopped saying that we, who is going to. That's our problem, man. We need to stop that. I can find my grandmother, I can find my great grandmother, and I can find my grandmother. And after that, it just takes a little bit of time. After you can do that, that's the starting point. You can
Okay.
find 6 generations behind in your family. All
I
right.
can agree with that.
Qualify. All right. Now, after we qualify, I don't not only think that we should get the money, I think we should be able to be in foundations, like he said. Now, first of all, we should be able to get our own banking. Now, I understand when money comes in lumps. People always want to grab everything. You seen the stimulus that they just did with us. Everybody had their hand in it. But first of all, before when the money comes, you got to take care of home first. I'm gonna keep saying home until we all get that. So first of all, when the money come in, you take care of home first, and then you got to branch out. You got to say, all right, we need our own hospital, we need our own bank, we need our own, grocery store. Those things should be looked at after you take it home, and you do the exact same thing when you come home. I'm sorry, when you got money in your house, you take care home first, and then you say, I got to pay the light bill, and then I got to go buy groceries, and then the kids stuff is last. So what I'm just saying is, first we got to start that foundation, and let's not get away from the situation of saying we don't know who we are. We do know who we are. That's the problem. They trying to tell us we don't know who we are, and we got to stop that. We know who we are, we know where we at, and we know what we going through. So let's deal with that, and then we can start taking care. And then you say, listen, I'm going to give you some money, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you some for your pocket, and then I'm going to tell you, I need you to start a foundation. And what your foundation is your business. Where do you make money from there? Because that's what they're doing. And you just said the Chinese. Let me tell you something. Not every Chinese got money. You know who the Chinese got? The money that came from the people that was in that problem, that circle. The same thing with the Jews. Not every Jew got it. The Jews that went through it, the descendants of that situation. So I'm just tired of, the problem with us black people. I'm tired of being put in a bowl with everybody else. Because not everybody else care about me. Because I'm going to tell you something.
Come on, man. Hey.
That Africans act like they better than us. And I tell them all the time, you ain't come and get me. You ain't come and get my grandmother. You left us and you knew where we was at. They knew where we was at. They knew we was right in America, and they ain't never came and got us. So let's talk about that first. And let's talk about why we can't go into African bank and get a loan.
Okay.
I got a bank.
For the same reason you can't go into a black rich person's bank and get a loan, because a lot of them have that same white mentality as the same oppressors over in this system. The problem with this conversation, it don't have a class analysis. You group all black people, the upper class and lower class together, the middle class together, as if we all
identifying identity politics.
See, no. See, what you're doing first is saying we can't talk identity politics. A lot of the principles that come from Fred Hampton himself are communist. That's politics. Regardless of how you take it, that's politics. So you want to get into
identity terminology, but I'm not saying that right there.
Wait. You started off with the principles of Fred, and Fred was able to step out of the race struggle, make it a people's struggle. That was what was unique about him. But that is still politics. Communism is a political system, just like capitalism. So we can't just throw the blanket of communism over it and think it's going to be all right, because we're looking for all people together, and we're looking at Indians and Latinos and all the different races of color. And then Darnell comes in and say, okay, let's take care of home first. Take care of home first makes more sense, and it's not political. The principles that you're laying down are political. That's communist political principles.
Okay, and I'm not disputing that. When I say identity politics, I'm talking about how we're separating black people from each other. You know what I'm saying? And we are because look at this. Listen to this. At the end of the day, we all are still dealing with the same oppression in 2021. No matter if you came over here 5 years ago, 50 years ago, 200 years ago, 400 years ago, we dealing with the same system over here like they're dealing with over in the other. We don't understand that this is an empire.
No. Actually, Nigerians are actually an elevated class above us.
Is there?
So that's
Nigerians that you're talking about are the wealthy class of Nigerians that I'm not speaking about. I'm talking about the majority
I'm
of the
talking about the
Nigerians
Nigerian
that came
kid.
over here, they had a being standards than the average Nigerian over in Nigeria.
Okay,
That's not true. That's not true.
Give me what?
Because
Okay, go ahead, Shane. Go ahead.
the majority of Black immigrants that come to the U.S., when they get here, they're already a step, if not multiple, above the average Black American that was already here. They're going to be more than likely guaranteed an education. They're going to make more money than us. They're already a step ahead of us. So I understand Black liberation. I fully support Black liberation. I understand that everyone Black is going to be seen as Black when they pulled over by the police
Absolutely.
and everything else. However, Black immigrants are definitely treated better in American society when they get here. They're already a step above us.
Already.
Pay and education already a step above us.
I say
so
this.
I'm all for Black liberation, but you're only gonna get me soup just a little bit when it comes in terms of reparations and everything else that you're speaking of. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, when I got out of prison, I didn't expect our Black community to be like it is. I did 18 years in prison. You dig what I'm saying? I get out of, I see Black and Nigerian people beefing. You dig what I'm saying? I see Black and Haitian people beefing. I say that to me is like, it goes back to a slave mentality that don't realize we're dealing with the same common oppression. You dig what I'm saying? So for me,
but here's the thing, though.
But this is the thing. This is when I say identity politics, though, because if we form this American Black identity and we start separating ourselves from all of our other Black brothers and sisters, as if we're somehow have some uniqueness about us that we have to be.
We're descendants of slaves.
Say it again, my brother. We do.
Yeah.
We do. I just want you to understand. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we do, man. We tasted different food. Let me tell you something, man. If you gotta pick a grape off a different plant a different way than I picked it off, it's a difference, bro. It's a difference. Everything tastes different in another country. We went through something different, bro. First of all,
and I'm not negating that.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's what, but you got to stop lumping everybody. You got to stop lumping everybody in because they don't do it. I'm gonna show you an example, right? And I want y'all to think about this, right? Just happened, right? Years ago, the Mexican kids was in the camps, right?
No, everybody Black isn't a descendant of a slave.
Yeah, that's right. Say that again. But what I was saying is this. I'm gonna show you an example how the kids was in the camps, right? And I was talking to a brother, and the brother was like, "Oh, they kids is going through this." I'm not saying that's wrong that their kids going through that, but I'm just saying when we start talking about what somebody else went through, talk about what we went through.
Okay, now since you brought up the cages, why don't any of us talk about the Black Africans that's in those same cages right now? With those Latinos in there, because you know why? Because a lot of us don't identify with our African roots. We do. We try to change my words around. We try to distance ourselves from our African brothers and sisters as if we not African ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think any of us are saying that though.
Let's let Sauce speak because Sauce has his hand up for a good minute trying to interject something. And he's back. So, say what you got to say. And then, Shane, you can go next. And then 7. If you can hear me.
Sorry, what do you think?
I'm not sure if you hear us. What were you saying, Shane?
Before 1965.
Oh, okay. Yeah, his connection is,
got your connection.
I'm good.
Yeah, we can't hit you. We're getting like 2 words out of you every 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's like dropping in, coming back. We'll try it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shane, what were you saying? And then 7.
I mean, I think he's I don't like the whole lumping. And I'm not saying that we are not African descendants. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that everyone's struggle is different. My struggle here as an African American descendant of slavery is completely different than someone in Haiti. It's completely different than, I don't know who that is, but already. It's different than all these different places. It's completely different. So what we're speaking on is actually reparations for African American descendants of slavery. Now, if Africa want to go get some reparations from Europe, by all means, go do that, and I support that too. I don't want to be lumped in, especially when I'm already starting at the bottom and I'm here.
That's what I'm saying.
My roots are here.
Like, we gotta commiserate at the bottom. Like,
that's right.
We can at the bottom just to help somebody from Nigeria that came over here voluntarily.
they don't want to commiserate with us.
Say it again, my brother. Say it again, Seven.
They want to bring us up, and I know this because of the Nigerians that I hang with. I mean, they love. I mean, of course, they interact with us like no issue, whatever. But I feel like when they do interact with us, it's like they're the thing is the ones that I interact with, they don't look down on us, but some of their relatives do. Absolutely. I mean, we don't have a term for them. We don't have a term for them, but they have a term for us called a
absolutely.
We're uncooked. Like, we had a whole episode on talking about,
and we're gonna
we had a
say like
that.
we're gonna say body. Well, look, we don't even have to separate it from Africans and us. You dig what I'm saying? We can look at in our community, like when I was growing up, it was East Side against the West Side. You dig what I'm saying? We all black. We always find a way to divide ourselves. You know what I mean? I remember before I worked with the street organizations, the GDs, the Vice Lords, and the Stones and stuff. You know what I mean? And I brought them here this summer. The former leader of the Vice Lords, the co-founder of the GDs, and one of the top generals of the Stones. And it was to teach the brothers that y'all out here killing each other for senseless reasons. And when those brothers, listen to this, the reason why I'm bringing this up, y'all killing each other for senseless reasons, when back in the 60s, those organizations came together and formed LDS, Laura Stones and Disciples. And then by 1978, it was about Brothers of the Struggle. But a lot of the youngsters out here, they kill themselves just because of what side of town you from, what color you wear. We find a way to separate ourselves with these different identities, when at the same time we not seeing ourselves as collectively being oppressed by the same system. That's what I'm speaking about. And I feel like with this conversation, it has hints of that, because it separates the fact, it tries to make it seem like we're not in a neo-colonial situation right now. And Gary, Indiana is all black people up there, mostly. From the mayor to the police chief to the city council. You know what they do? They kill us off in the streets, just like the white supremacist police officers that put on hood at night and put on that badge throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? Because we still looking at it from this integrating and assimilating into this system, even with the conversation of reparations. What is the solution? How we're going to use this money to fund black liberation? Because I don't want to be another 400 years that we gonna stay talking about we're getting Mike Brown's, Tamir Rice's, and Trayvon Martin's, and you know what I mean? That's the problem.
I hear you. I feel like there is an overlap between the two camps. You know, one where you're saying there needs to be a systemic overhaul, or at least programs to address the systemic racism that exists. But then also I'm hearing there needs to be a payout given to, people who are descendants of slaves, starting at some, established period in time in regard to your heritage in this country. So it feels like, we're talking across each other, but then we're also talking about the same thing. There's more
one thing in isolation, I feel.
And that's why I feel like it's multi-pronged. But I also feel there is the danger. Here's my concern about reparations is, okay, we go ahead and we shell out, just like we're talking about in regard to this COVID stimulus, $2,000 to everybody or whatever. That would be horribly low in my opinion. But you give that out, and it goes to debtors, it goes to banks, it goes to, everybody without any kind of financial management, any background, knowledge, education, opportunity to buy certain things. Now you got $50,000, but then people have jacked up real estate to, $300 million. That's how much it takes to buy a home or whatever. So if we're talking about a one-time payment out, there's an opportunity, because of how capitalism works, to just move the goalpost, absorb that money back in, and then you go back asking for more cash, and they're like, but y'all already got paid. So what do you?
And now we free.
Well, first of all, reparations isn't a one-time paycheck. Let's start there. It's not a one-time payout like that. That to me, that doesn't even make any sense.
Okay,
but it was a one-time payout for the others, though.
I mean,
it was a one-time payout for the others. Now, when they paid out to the Japanese, they paid out 1.6 billion. Everybody got 20,000.
Exactly.
How long do they hold them?
No, I hear you, but
you know what I'm saying? I mean, like if we're talking about
one time,
let's do a proper ratio. Let's compare apples to apples. Let's make sure, like, okay, we're talking about they had a year and a half and they got 20,000 each. Cool. We got help for 400 years. What do we get?
Right.
See what I'm saying? Like that's the type of stuff that I feel like isn't really being talked about. And then when we get the pushback talking about, well, how we're gonna pay for it or what are you gonna do with it? To me, that's playing right into the white supremacists of the world out there. I support reparations on any sort of black event or black activity that's going on anyway. Because as soon as we have some sort of organization where we say, okay, this is the head, this is the lead, and this is the direction we want to go, we have an outside group, either with black people who want to be infiltrators or white people who are sitting on the outside looking and watching, who will sit there and say, let's find a way to make sure that they don't get what they're aiming for. I mean, that always happens. Listen, and for us to be all on the same page is never going to happen. Let's be real. Civil rights movement started with 10,000 people. I'm sorry, less than 10,000 people. You know what I'm saying? Before everybody started hearing about it and feeling like, oh yeah, we were all on board. No, everybody was not even on board with the civil rights movement. When we got here, we weren't all the same. We were different tribes in Africa. Africans aren't the same. Ghanaians and Africans and Cameroonians, they don't freaking have just cuz. They don't all just do that. So there are tribes today who don't. That's my point. Who maintain and stick with their own. There are tribes today who stick to their own and maintain and take care of home first.
Yeah.
So why are we wrong for this? Like we're people here who are all bastardized by Africa and left alone to our own devices, basically by America, and we're wrong now because we want to actively and collectively pull ourselves together and say, "Hey, let's all figure out a way to make sure that we get what we're deserved." Like,
okay, let me say reparation in a microcosm that happens actually today. For instance, some of these mothers, there are people, and this is just a microcosm of what I'm talking about. Some of the families that's being killed by the police that gets payouts. They accept that payout, and I totally support them. But they still out here boots on the ground going against this system because the same oppression gonna keep on going on against our people. So my point is,
a lot of times when they get that money, they sign a check that says that they can't. They sign a form that says that they can't. So when they get that money, they sign an also shut up fee.
But this is my point of making this comment. When we get this money, are we now forgiving this capitalist imperialist white system for 400 years of oppression and killing us? Okay, so now what's the next solution? That's my point. Now we start what? See, how do we use this money?
I'll say that it would be the equivalent of what some of us kind of expected when Black Lives Matter started doing its thing. When we saw the marches, we saw the huge mobilization of people and all these huge movements that were going around. From DC to Seattle, like across the nation, we saw the stuff that was happening. So a lot of us started thinking, well, all these people are sitting up and moving. Not a lot of black folks in those movements, but we saw a lot of people getting up and moving, and we were like, okay, well, so we're gonna see some laws changing. Are we gonna start changing some policies? Oh no! All you're gonna do is take down statues, sell some flags, and collect some money. Okay, great. Well, what we need is actual policy change, law changes, and people to actually enforce those laws.
And that's
what we need. So whether it happens before,
now we're getting to the heart.
Whether it happens before or after, I don't care. doesn't
now,
matter to me.
now is this
But
ADOS
that's
position?
that's something that's totally separate of the other. Because because here's the thing that'll happen. Because we have to be very mindful. Because watch if the system changes. So let's just say they say, okay, you know, we're sorry. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna change the system. Racism is completely illegal now. So if anybody does it, they're going to jail. Period. So we do. So let's say the government does all of that, right? So they do that. Then they'll say, well, what do you have to complain about? Everything's great. What do you need reparations for? See what I'm saying? So it's like I feel like there's it's a two-pronged attack that isn't independent on the other. Like you don't have to have one before you can get the other, in my opinion.
But let me am I muted?
Yeah, no, you're not. You're on.
Let me ask this question, and I don't know. I'm learning. I'm learning from y'all. Y'all learn from one of the perspectives. All black people in the Black Liberation Movement, we don't all think alike. Not everybody have a Fred Hampton method of approach to revolution. You know what I'm saying? Because when we say revolution, we really mean that. You know what I mean? But I'm saying this: does ADOS have a strategy beyond is changing laws the only thing that y'all focused on with trying to change laws to make it better for us to assimilate or is this a monolithic strategy, or do some of y'all break down and side with people like me that feel like at the end of the day we're gonna have to have American Revolutionary War all over again eventually, because at the end of the day this system is always going to be like that. For 400 years, they told us we always going to be second-class citizens. We always going to be placed in a situation of subjugation by them. You know what I'm saying? So if we're content with just living inside their system, we're going to continually deal with the same problems in our community after reparations. That's what I'm trying to get at.
All right.
So where do we go?
Shane, I want to let Shane, because she's got expressions. Right. Shane, and then Darren, because even though he's quiet, I know he's been formulating something to fire off, and then we'll go Darnell. So Shane, talk to me.
I'm just listening to him. That's all. I'm just trying to take in what all he's saying. We all know Black liberation is important to all of us. We all know that. It's important to me, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the panels is important to them too. I think the main thing that I don't understand if he's trying to put everything together. Does he want everything right now? I don't understand where he's going with that. Like, are you saying that instead of us getting an individual check, that you want that money to go into the communities? Because then you got to think about the Black communities up north is completely different from the Black communities down south.
Yeah.
The needs are going to be different. The Black community over here in the West is going to be completely different than the South.
Absolutely.
So are you trying to have a central place like Atlanta? Like, what are you trying to do?
I mean, like I said, I don't focus on this issue. I just say what we do within our Black Liberation Movement. The money that we try to bring in, we try to go to institutional build in our communities to have programs so we become self-sufficient. And some of these is going to take a point in time. So this is a complex issue. How will we even form a committee to decide how these resources allocated, for instance, to build these institutions in our community where we can be self-sufficient? That's how I see reparations to be utilized, but we don't have collectively a consensus of institutions that we feel is credible that would even do the right thing by our community. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem in itself. We have so much division within our own institutions, no matter how far on the left or to the right our Black institutions are, that we can even come to an agreement of how we would utilize this in a collective manner for our communities. You know what I'm saying? So that's a ongoing conversation if that was part of the strategy. But if it's about just giving everybody individual checks, to me, I understand that. Everybody's going to do whatever they want with it, but I just hope people don't be content and think, oh, now we should they apologize to us and they gave us this and But we dealt with 400 years of oppression, black brothers and sisters, and we can't be complacent and think all this stuff is going to voila change and all these things that we're confronting right now. That this uprising in 2020, we're not going to keep on having these every 30 years, every 20 years, because they're going to keep on killing us in the street. They're going to keep on using mass incarceration. They're going to keep on doing these things that affect our community. So we got to go beyond this. And if I connect reparations, if I had anything to say, I would be using that to build these institutions, but those institutions will be preparing our people to take political power from this government that's oppressing us and will always oppress us.
With what I'm gonna go to somebody who's in the chat. Slice Keeper says, and I resonate with this so hard right now. The government can barely take care of us during a global pandemic. So we are sitting here talking about what we can do for black people, but we can't even get more than $600. Some people, Shane, you got your check yet? Anybody got the?
I still ain't got my check.
31st, I got mine.
I ain't got my check.
So
I don't want it either.
I'm not saying this negates asking for it.
I'm gonna take my check.
Like there is a realism factor that comes into play. If you got the same oppressors really letting their own kind die by the hundreds of thousands, the likelihood of them, cutting any kind of check, implementing any kind of policy anytime soon, Ice Cubes have better chances taking vacations in Hades. So with that being said, I feel that these discussions actually facilitate us finding using our own ingenuity, our own resources to address some of these issues. We can say, oh, that's a problem, even though we can say this A, B, and C are problems and they need to be fixed. Even though these people should be fixing them over here, this is what we need to address. And we need to resource ourselves some way, somehow, the way that we always have, in this country, to address those things. So it feels like the dialogue is less about a realistic realization of addressing the issue of reparations, but more so, almost like a water cooler for us to have conversations about issues that need to be addressed that we can address ourselves. Darren, let us into your mind shortly.
Well, we need some tangibility, in my opinion, and just touching base on what Kwame is sharing. This liberation that we're seeking is going to be difficult to be tangible because our enemy's right here with us. A bird that's liberated from a cage flies away. An animal that gets out of the pen runs away. When we were quote unquote emancipated, we left the plantations. We had a migration to the north. We went throughout the nation. So it's going to be difficult for us to claim a true liberation when after we get the check or after we unite and change policies and laws, that enemy's still standing there. That enemy's there like a leech and a viper. And they're looking to profit on us. They're looking to gain from us. They're looking to control us. And I really think we need to focus our energies on that enemy. If we're going to get some true, tangible separation, whether it be legal policy, in society, how we deal with each other, we need to deal with them. Even if we were to get a check of any type of reparation, they're not going to change. They're still going to keep killing black folks on the side of the road. They're going to have a little nasty, stank-ass attitude. That's the biggest problem. To me, that's the biggest problem, this enemy that we're dealing with. And they're not just here in America, they're global. They're in Africa right now, parasiting and leeching off of Cameroon and Ghana and Zimbabwe, just like they're doing us here. So, I think we need to deal with the fact that liberation is never really going to be tangible. There's no place for us to go. And we're everywhere.
And I was having the same conversation, earlier about reparations because, I was doing my research leading into this discussion. And, we talk about the fruits of reparations, or not the fruits of reparations, but the fruits of slavery, and basically how Haiti was exploited by the French. How, America, we're talking about going to America and asking for, some kind of payout, when in reality, Great Britain reaped a good number of the fruits of our labor. A good amount of the fruits of our labor, our ancestors' labor in this country. So, you know, while I appreciate there being a local discussion or a need for domestic answer to solutions, at the same time, it feels like there's a global conversation that needs to be had, because otherwise you letting fucking the Queen of England get off scot-free. Like, you know, we built the fucking crown off of our backs over there without our labor, the cotton we were picking or whatever, being exported out, sent overseas or whatever. They're wearing clothes that, you know, are made up of the cotton that our ancestors picked. So my concern is addressing the immediate right now, only addressing those individuals, those governments at a local level, and giving, you know, other places a pass. You know, what are your thoughts on that, Darnell?
I'm just going to say this, right? First of all, when we started this reparation conversation, we're not talking about the pandemic. We're not talking about nothing else. I just want to stay on topic, right? First of all, we want to stay on topic, right? We're going to talk about what if they gave us reparations, okay? So we're going to stay on topic. So first of all, I said we got to get a starting point. So our starting point is this. And if I had the choice of reparations, this will be my starting point. First of all, I'm going to go descendants from slaves. All right, boom. I'm going to give you this amount. I ain't got to jump out the window. Whatever they give us is never going to be worth it. Period. We ain't gonna get crazy about that. So let's just say we're gonna give everybody $20,000. All right, boom. Everybody get $20,000. Then I'm gonna say, all right, because y'all can't talk like we have, and we got 6 people here that everybody got a different opinion. All right. So out of these 6 people, I'm gonna tell you, if y'all 6 people come to me and says we're gonna do this, I'm going to give you this money, and you're not going to have to pay it back with such a high interest. You're going to pay me back, but you're going to have to pay me back with not such a high interest. All right, so now those 6 people say, all right, we want to open up a hotel. All right, well, you get that money for the hotel. All right, it's 6 other people that says, I want to open up a grocery store. I'm sorry, I just showed my age, but a grocery store. You know what I'm saying? So, like I just said, the starting point is collectively that foundation. We taking care of you first. Now I'm going to tell you is how do you eat off what I'm giving you? How can we? First, you got the wrong and the right. Let me tell you something. You know the problem is with somebody getting high, they're gonna always get high until they say, I'm a junkie. I just want them to say, first of all, I did you wrong. I'm still doing you wrong by you can't move over here. You can't get this job. My cops are allowed to kill you on street in front of everybody. First of all, we desensitized it anyway, because if you show me 7 people that got murdered Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when Thursday get here, I don't even care. Friday is just another. I mean, that's what they doing to us. They literally let me tell you something. You ain't seen no white man on YouTube be murdered. I'm not talking about race. I'm just showing you a simple fact. They don't show a white man get shot 17 times on TV all day, every day. But that's what they do to us. So first of all, I want you to say that's not gonna happen. We're not gonna do that. You know what I mean? I'm sorry for your mama getting raped, your grandmom being raped. First of all, I want a mission for that's what restoration is going to start from for me first. Is the not apologize, just admit what you did.
Yeah, but see the problem with that is you have people admitting that didn't do it. See, they're descendants just like we are.
We keep getting off the topic. Listen, bro, it's people that you know what white people say. This is what they cop out. That was my grandmother.
Yeah, exactly. That was
my grandpa. Listen, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear none of that. Let's not get off the. Listen, man. I just want you to apologize what you've done.
Well, I mean,
not even apologize. You realize what you've done to me.
Oh, who's apologizing?
And that's the thing. Exactly, Darren. That's the thing.
Who's apologizing?
Your apology is by admitting what you've done. They won't.
All right, so who's apologizing for my great grandfather being raped in 1911? Who's giving that apology?
And you know how you're gonna get this apology? This is how you're gonna. First of all, you're gonna put it in the history book what you did. That's your apology. That's because you can't apologize to me. You can't. So
you
this
can
is
be
how
honest.
you gonna apologize. This how you gonna apologize. You're gonna say, this is what I did. And then you're gonna let my child see what you did. And he gonna be able to read it. He gonna be able to understand. He gonna stop. He ain't gonna say it ain't gonna be twisted words or none of that. He gonna say, I hung you because you told me I can't rape your mama. That's why you got hung. I want that admission in the books so my kids can read. That's the starting point. Then I want you to say, listen, I know that you don't have a grocery store in your neighborhood. But if you bring me 7 of your African descendants to me, I'm going to give you this loan to open up a grocery store right down the street from your house. Then I'm going to tell you, give me 7 more, y'all, and I'm going to open up a bank right down the street. You know why I keep on saying more than one? Because it's hard for us right here talking about what we need and what we deserve, and we got a problem about it. Not a problem about it, where it should go, how it should go, and this and that. I'm just saying that we all need to start a foundation, and I'm going to say it again, take care of house first. I'm just saying, everybody out here got a job. When you come in the house with that check, what you do first? You're going to pay that rent first, and then everything else fall in place.
I think every last one of us in agreement on that. Take care of your house first. I don't think there's no disagreement on that. Even with us, even when I talk about the class analysis, we say start within our community. You know what I'm saying?
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so we all in agreement on that. My whole thing is,
I think the question is
reparations. Like, are we content? Are we going back to our houses and thinking we won? We overcome now, or are we going to start to build and try to?
That's the thing. I think,
and I'm not saying this is what y'all arguing for. I'm just saying this is the bigger conversation than all of us know we should get reparations. You know what I'm saying? But how are we going to use these reparations to liberate? Well, the ones that how would I say it? That realize that we've been injustice, definitely with slavery, chattel slavery has happened to a lot of us over here in the United States. And these are the reasons why we in the conditions that we have today that carries over generation after generation and is repackaged in different forms every generation to every generation. You know what I mean? Those that's educated, all of us here right now is educated, and all of us recognize that. You know what I mean? So all of us is in agreement that but to me is the bigger questioning if we should get reparations. It's about how we use those reparations to liberate ourselves from this oppression that we've been dealing with for 400 years, to stop this 400 years or continue another 400 years. That's the bigger question. If we're going to continue the same 400 years, all we have to do is give everybody money, and then we just build banks and all this other stuff, and that's the limit. But if we trying to see that this government has always oppressed us and will always oppress us, will always be white supremacists, will always oppress other black and brown brothers across the world, yeah, that's a bigger question of how we going to go after that. You know what I'm saying? And how we
reparations. But here's the thing: reparations isn't a finish line, and I feel like that's kind of what you're thinking.
That's what I'm saying.
So I don't think anyone, at least in none of my ADOS meetings and none of the readings that I've done and none of the stuff that I looked at, has anyone at any point said, once we get our check, woo, that's it.
Yeah,
that's what I want to hear. I want to hear what do y'all propose we do afterwards? What is ADOS solution? Like, we have a solution. We have a strategy about how to go about Black liberation and build a real movement for revolution, like equivalent to the Civil War, American Revolutionary War.
Here's the thing, and you said that earlier, and I didn't want to. That's. To me, that's almost kind of it's almost like you're looking for a fight.
Yeah.
And I get it. I get it. Sure.
They already declared war on us.
Absolutely. But personally, as a Chicagoan who is very familiar with the GDs, PDs, Black Stones, all of that good stuff, whose father was an El Rukin, you know what I'm saying? Like, I dig all of that. And he was Jamaican at that. But like I as someone who gets all that, I feel like we can't get complacent, and at no point is anybody talking about complacency. At no point is anyone saying this is all that we're gonna do. We're gonna get it. We're gonna sit back, rest on our laurels, and that be it.
No.
I mean, we're talking about building, building community, building coalitions. But at the same time, we have to understand that we're trying to do this within the system, right?
Within the system.
Within the system, because here's the thing: this is the system that's in place, and the system is just a bigger, smaller version of the global system.
Yep.
Right.
And here's the thing, and we
But
can't,
it's the hub,
and we are only less than 13% of the population here. So how is
Damn.
that number going to be the fighting force? Of which,
that's why
sure, not even half are prepared to fight.
And
So
it's a process. Right.
6% of the population ready to wage war against the entire of the nation. What is the outcome that you're trying to seek?
But this we're talking about, because I think you lost sight of what I said when I first started. When we was talking about Rainbow Coalition, that goes beyond 13%, my brother. That start to recognize as we develop in our own
group that can't relate.
Starting with self, developing that political education, recognizing the problem and solution is this system and other people in their own communities. This actually happened. This ain't no theoretical stuff. You can look up the first Rainbow Coalition on PBS. Independent Lens came out January 27th of last year. Watch that. This has actually happened. That's why they took down that movement. This is the first time in this country. This is the first time in this country that a class coalition was brought together where people was recognizing that we was being oppressed by this same system, not just the 13% of us. We would never. This why I say Black liberation must lead ultimately the human liberation. Ultimately.
So speaking of the 13% in numbers and percentages in general, when it comes to like the people who are even within the House, how are we talking about? Because there's been some discussion in regard to dilution, and if you are multiracial, multi-ethnic, if you are half black and half white, you get half a check. Like, how does this play out? Let's talk about that a little bit before we sign off.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'll be the first to go ahead and kick that out while we're talking. I'm seeing some of the comments, and I just wanted to kind of comment on some of them real quick. Somebody says less than 13. I'm talking about less than 13% of the United States population, unless the census says different. And yes, we are the worldwide population majority, but we ain't together, and that's the problem. That's the whole thing that Kwame was kind of addressing. But to kind of go on this whole thing of mixed race people and all of that, if somebody is of mixed race, I mean, they would trace that lineage and say, okay, well, how far back are you mixed? And again, going by the starting point that's been established by the book, or one of the books I've been looking at, From Here to Eternity, they would go back from that point and say, okay, well, if they were mixed from that point on forward, then you would get a proportional part of that amount based on your degree of however much you mix with.
Okay. So how much would Obama get?
Nothing.
American.
Kamala ain't getting no check either.
He's a child of immigrants. He's getting the same amount Kamala Harris will get.
Damn. Kamala and Barack get nothing. Damn.
She wanted a descendant of African American slavery.
What are you talking about? What are we talking about? They'll both get a Kwanzaa present.
Descendants of slavery.
Wait. So, but
Black pigment.
Sasha and Malia get a check though. Sasha and Malia get a check, right?
No.
That's
right. That's right.
Here.
ADOS, American Descendant of Slavery.
There you go.
Isn't their mom ADOS?
Yes.
The mom is.
The mom is.
Yeah, see, I got lost track of the mom.
Sasha Malia be giving their daddy a loan or something, but he ain't giving me no
They getting all that book money. They
starting point. That's all I'm saying. Starting point.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, we laughed and joking, but then we're also, building in or baking in, some, some colorism, a group.
But it's not pigment. It's descendant.
Okay, but
it's
then
not pigment.
We're also encouraging division because the thing is, like, you better not go marry that Asian boy. You're gonna lose your benefits. Your benefits.
Here's the thing: Asians do that to us. I used to date a Chinese girl whose father said that exact thing to her. He had an inheritance that he had set up for her, or I guess they have money that they give to the daughters. That she's the firstborn of her, firstborn in the family and all that. So if she and I were to get married, her father was like, "You only getting a certain amount. You're not getting the full thing."
Wow.
Yeah.
So we can all acknowledge. I mean, do we?
So what happens? That's my point.
I know. I'm saying, and I agree with it. I recognize it. That's why I brought it up. So, I mean, are we agreeing that approach is, for lack of a better term, fucked up?
No.
No, it's not.
At all.
Not at all. No.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's not at all.
Descendancy, brother.
That's what I'm saying.
It is what it is.
Again, we're
Say it
talking
again,
about,
baby. It is what it is.
Oh,
here's the thing.
Descendancy.
I like what Darnell was saying. And
Not skin tone.
honesty is the best apology. And
okay.
when it comes to all of this, if we're not being honest, then we're fooling ourselves at the end of the day.
Okay. Well, I mean, all I'm saying is you're few.
Here's the thing. So if we have we've had the civil rights movement, right? Civil rights movement that was initially for black folks, but who joined in? Everybody.
Oh yeah.
And who got benefits off of it?
Everybody. I don't want that no more.
Parasite.
Affirmative action, maybe.
We live in an era right now.
Our fathers got good janitor jobs at the plant.
And
You see what we got?
You see the laws that Obama put in? Everybody got off. He put a law in that was supposed to be for us. You know who used that? Everybody. I don't want that. I don't want
Because
nobody.
I agree. Home first.
Just for us.
It was
For the
an
other way.
assimilationist
Home
policy,
first.
though. It's a difference between the civil rights movement and black liberation movement. We experiencing the legacy of the civil rights movement right now with all this the assimilationist policy. Look, we're sending our kids to schools that we know is miseducating our children. Think about that. We're not investing in our own educational institutions, but we wanted to go to schools and sit by a white supremacist and learn about George Washington, but they wasn't going to teach us about Huey P. Newton.
It's your responsibility to teach your children.
Yes.
It's your responsibility
Especially
to teach
in the
your
information age. Yes.
Right.
It's your responsibility. My children know about black history.
You have no excuse.
There's no excuse in the information age.
You have no
The point I'm bringing this up the point I'm bringing this up is what we was talking about before. I respect everybody's views on here. I'm not a person that y'all all my black brothers and sisters, no matter if I agree with you or not. You know what I'm saying? I'm out here boots on the ground all the time, standing for us, no matter, because we're not a monolithic people. But I'm fighting for your liberation, just like your liberation, no matter what. Because at the end of the day, we being oppressed by the same type of oppression. You know what I'm saying? But my point is this: is the assimilationist policy versus, of the civil rights movement. This is the era that we living in right now. So, of how that policy played out, because we wanted to go to these white supremacist schools. We wanted to go to be able to sit on their buses and stuff like that. I understand intersegregation was important, but to assimilationist policy, an integrationist policy into a white supremacist system, this is a product of what we're going through now. All the divisions that we have.
What part about this is assimilation? I mean, we're just talking about getting some money. Anybody say we're trying to move into the suburbs? Anybody say we're trying to move on up like Jefferson? No. And again, this is like money that's supposed to put how can we be a higher class or upper class? I don't get that. Like,
I'm not talking about.
Some folks got so many issues and problems that even if you gave them $100,000, it won't fix nothing. What are we talking? That's what I'm saying. So like just because people get money doesn't mean it's necessarily going to rise or keep anybody above anybody else. I don't get that.
That's not the point I'm making.
Okay.
I think you're losing sight of the point I'm making. My point I'm making, I'm not in the reparation lane. This is y'all lane. I'm just gonna support, you dig what I'm saying? If it comes about, it comes about. Me, till that time happens, I'm out here boots on the ground, building up these institutions, forming these coalitions right now. I'm not gonna wait for white people to do anything for us. When I say white people, I'm talking about this white supremacist system. Let me say it like that. This white supremacist system. I'm not gonna wait for them to help our community. When at the end of the day, we have the reach in our community today. We have our intellectuals, we have our engineers, we have our people that have all these skill sets. We just have to bring those resources together where we start to utilize these things for our community. And we start to develop the institutions that's going to teach us our true history, our true understanding amongst each other, understand that we're still not free. No matter if we live in America or we live, you know what I mean? We still not free. I did 18 years in prison, and coming out here, I look around every day and I see people caught up in the matrix because of education a lot of us was given in these systems that never taught us about our real history. Like a lot of us don't even know that 500 years ago, we actually had universities over in Africa that taught us different cataract surgery, that translating different books of different languages into other languages. But when I went to school, I thought we was always savages according to the school system I went through, because they didn't history. I went to Pike High School here in Indianapolis, and they gave us a real messed up education that really didn't teach us. We didn't have no. I had to go to prison to find out about the Black Panther Party. I had to go to prison to really understand what Malcolm X and George Jackson and some of our revolutionary leaders around the world even represented. You dig what I'm saying? And that's what the problem is. We need our own educational institutions to educate our people, to bring us together. Because once we have a pride in self, then we can start to. Then we have a desire to invest in self. But we still have a internalized white supremacy that keeps us divided a lot of time. And part of that is because of our lack of education. Like I said, I went to prison to find that.
Well, we have a lack of education a lot of times, especially as adults, because we choose that.
Well, I'm saying the education is right now. A miseducation.
Yeah, no, you're right. I got you. You're right.
I'm saying you're right. The dollars that we got, the dollars that we get, we need our own educational. We talk about do for self. Doing for self starts with this. You dig what I'm saying? Because once we start to recognize that we are dealing with the same oppression, we'll have a better conversation where we can understand each other a lot better, because we have a working education that brings pride in each other, that sees that you are my sister, and I'm going to be there for you even if we don't agree. I'm going to be there standing in solidarity with you regardless, because your liberation is just as important to my liberation. But we can't get that sending our kids to these schools that's telling us about George Washington and even Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves as if he cared about us. When I go to prison, I find out he a white supremacist just like Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? That's what we feeling as black leaders, that we're not giving our children the education to really fight for liberation. You know what I'm saying?
So I got a question. I mean, okay, so let me ask you a question, Kwame. I got a son at Princeton. Is he at the wrong place? Or is that the wrong place to learn?
Yeah, but it depends on what in the Ivy League right now.
But like this, when I talk about education, are they teaching him about what the civil rights movement was really about, what the Black liberation movement was about? Are they even going back so far to tell him about Songhai Empire, Mali Empire, Ghana Empire, Are they teaching him about Egypt, how we started civilization? Or is are they connecting this into a curriculum that's going to make them a world-class education that can go back 10,000 years about human civilization to put everything in perspective? What we have accomplished as a people. If they're not doing that, it speaks for itself.
But how do you know that he didn't teach his son that before his son went to Princeton?
Or he didn't get that at his own elementary school.
How do you know that he didn't do that? Because my school had a whole African American history class. I learned more in high school than I did at a historical Black university.
And Kwame, I'll agree with you slightly. 30, 40 years ago, you're right. I just think we're in the midst of the information age. We have libraries right now in our hands and we can research any topic, read up on it, comprehend it, understand it on our own volition, aside from a curriculum that might constrain us and restrict us. So I almost feel like I definitely get your point, but I just feel like those days are over. No one has an excuse for a lack of knowledge in 2020. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
but this is the reason why institutional education is important, because once you become miseducated, it's hard to form and re-educate yourself. Like I don't know anybody's belief systems up here, and I don't want to disrespect anybody's belief system. I grew up. Huh?
Go ahead.
I grew up as a Christian. And I didn't know where Christianity really came from, because this is how I was programmed as a kid. You didn't understand
the beginning. I wanted to talk to you, Darryl. Go ahead. That's what I'm talking about.
And because I knew nothing about Egyptian religion. I didn't know nothing about the other religions of the world and how they took our religion and turned it into this white Jesus that was supposed to save Black people in the whole world and stuff. I for a long time, that brainwashing caused me to have a lot of self-hate with life and stuff, because I had a very miseducated way of life. That's what sent me to prison, growing up really bitter at life, because I had been indoctrinated with some false belief systems. You know what I'm saying? So when you are miseducated from a young age, it has a way of affecting your behavior throughout life. You don't get a true education the first time around, because now you have to search for it yourself. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why I say institutional education is very important for us to take responsibility and institutionalize the collective wisdom and knowledge that we have developed at 2021. We know a lot more today as a people, but we haven't institutionalized it in a way to pass this education on systematically to the next generation to prepare them not to make the same mistakes as us. Because a lot of us grows up with inferiority complexes, and we don't get rid of it until, like, a person like me go to prison and have to sit off in a cell for 23 hours a day on supermaxes, and then pick up a book and start to find out the answers in life, when I could have found those answers out when I was 5, 6 years old.
I don't want to get off topic. Let's not get off topic.
I'm gonna close because we're at 8:36. So I mean, I appreciate everybody for coming out and participating in this discussion. I think it's a rolling discussion. I don't feel like we're done with this. I don't look at anybody in this discussion as being a winner or a loser. Like, I want everybody to know, I appreciate your various perspectives, because reparation, Black liberation, addressing systemic injustice, like, these are multi-faceted, multi-headed hydras that have to be fought, and there is no one solution to fixing it. And so one thing that, I want to reinforce in regard to this dialogue that I believe all of us can agree on is that there is no incentive by anyone outside of this circle to fix this shit. There's no incentive. There's every incentive to perpetuate it, to keep it going, to keep the conflict going, to not address, the systemic injustice that rose, that requires us to address those circumstances with reparations. No one is going to come outside of us. It's going to have to be us. And so if we can focus on that, then I feel like we can work together toward building those solutions, you know, within our community. But I want to have that because those solutions are going to require us to change up roles, to reach out to one another, to find those people who are, you know, good at, you know, building, good at medicine, good at all of these other facets that are going to, you know, need to be employed to address the problem, the greater problem. Feel me?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when am I gonna get my check? It's my check.
It's coming.
Which one? The stimulus?
Exactly.
But I like to end by just saying it's a pleasure to bring because I think everybody on here is ADOS. This is the first time I had a conversation. Not everybody.
Nope. That's the funny thing. We all aren't, but we're all on the same team. Everybody's not ADOS here. You know, I have some pretty interesting views on the construct of race and what that means.
I knew you wasn't.
so we can have. That's what I'm trying to say. This is a rolling discussion because I feel like, you know, if we focus on race and race alone, you know, we're going to pigeonhole some people who shouldn't, like, you know, people who are adopted. You know, if you're adopted, you know, out the system into a white family, you know,
Kaepernick still gets half.
Okay, so
it's established.
But these are and can lead to some people like Colin Kaepernick being like, "Why the fuck am I kneeling? I don't want to get half this shit. I ain't gonna kneel. You know, I'll bend over maybe, but I ain't gonna kneel. You know, it's like
bend over. Oh, man. Took it the wrong way.
Backwards.
I told you I've been to prison, man. I told you I've been to prison.
Exactly.
Oh man.
I got to watch you, my brother.
In that type of way.
But yeah, I mean, it feels like, you know, there's an opportunity, you know, to exclude people from this fight who could actually be allies in this fight, and we can't. And you know, at 15%, we aren't even all together.
You heard Darnell, man. Take care home first. We ain't talking about nobody else. All right.
I'm with you. Take care home. Take her home. Peace, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. Bye.
Bless you, man. Bless you.
Appreciate y'all.